Hi, this is Lisa Orta again, and I want to take a moment to look at the first four grading rubrics for essay number one and to talk a little bit about how Burciaga's essay reflects what I want you to do in your essay number one. The first thing that I have asked you to do is to focus on a single topic, and I think you can see that Burciaga begins his essay referencing the tortilla, and he stays talking about the tortilla all the way through. That's something that I need you to do. So you want to start referencing your object, and you want to keep everything that you write about related to your object, and then you want to end with something about your object that gives us an extra insight or a reading or an interpretation of the meaning of that object that might be a bit surprising. And so here in Burciaga's essay, he ends with talking about different ways people heat up the tortilla and how he, as a Mexican, knows how to heat the tortilla up correctly in a comal. And then he says, what is a comal? And that's another story for another day. Essay rubric point number 2, explore a series of contrasts. This whole essay is an exercise in contrasts. He talks about the tortilla as a hand warmer that he used on cold days, as maize bread that could be compared to Europe's wheat bread, as something that could be compared with a spoon and the fork, the chopsticks, the sandwich, and the napkin. He uses phrases like gringo eye. That's a nice comparison phrase. Most of us use our eyes, but this is a gringo eye, so he's setting up some sort of a comparison. I've marked this in turquoise because he talks about a tortilla having a bottom and a top, a left and a right, and an inside and an outside. That harkens back to the title of the essay, and I think it draws our attention to his theme. And it is his central comparison, meaning that he, as a Mexican, knows a lot about the tortilla, and he embeds in his essay this notion that we readers need to get educated about the nuance of the tortilla. Establish a strong writing voice that is personal is grading rubric point number 3. What I mean by that is to use sensory detail, to use figurative language, and to experiment with structure. And Burciaga does this here. He has a lot of short paragraphs. He has an awful lot of sensory detail. We talked already about the hand warmers. We can see that he compares handmade tortillas with machine-made tortillas using a lot of sensory detail. The notion that you can hear the handmade tortillas being made by the slapping of the masa between skilled hands. And then years later, when he comes back, the factory has disappeared, and the mother is buying tortillas out of warm, protective wicker baskets, which is a wonderful visual image. Let's see, figurative language. I would mark some in yellow. Let's see here. I wore tortillas on my head like yarmulkes and never had any great urge to convert from Catholicism to Judaism. Here he's using an allegory, the yarmulke representing Judaism. He's put the tortilla on his head. It looks like a yarmulke, but of course he's not tempted to convert to Judaism. Here we've got irony, the spoon and the fork, the chopsticks, the sandwich, and the napkin. He uses a phrase that's anthropomorphic, handsome tortillas, handsome, a word that we generally relate to good-looking people, and figurative language all the way through the essay. The next grading rubric point, very important, is to communicate a central message. This essay, by using the kinds of details he does, really points our attention to this notion that there's an inside to the tortilla that reflects his inside, his identity. So he capitalized gringo as a way to objectify or distance himself from the gringo I, because the tortilla is something that lives within him. There's the best way to heat up a tortilla is something that he knows, and he implies that we need to be educated about that. So what you want as a central message in the end is something that surprises your reader, something that shows your reader an aspect of an object that they have not yet thought about, or that is new. And he does that in this essay by ending with a question. What is a comal? Well, that's another story. And again, apparently he's implying a story that only he can tell. So I hope by going over the grading rubrics with you and looking a little bit more closely at Burciaga's essay, you have a better sense of what I want you to do for your essay number 1.